Right, let's dive into the big news from this week. So this is an interesting one to kick us off with here. These images were shared by Tiger Driver. So this is from the new WWE Battlegrounds game that's currently out at the moment. And there's an interesting image that appeared on this, which is this image here. Now, this would seem fairly innocuous. It's just sort of like a little training thing on how to do the Royal Rumble. But down in the bottom right-hand corner here is this image, which is quite clearly Tessa Blanchard. Like, it is the exact same image of Tessa Blanchard from when she won the Impact World title.
Wow.
It's so weird that she is like that. And like the guy who took the photograph, Basil Mahmoud, tweeted out saying, like, you know, like, hey, how is my image being used in this game without my permission? Because it's, you know, it is a sketch of the image, and like he wasn't contacted about it, or they weren't contacted about it. So it's just like really bizarre. And it's interesting because Tessa is currently a free agent. You know, she's been rumored that she's going to be going to WWE since she left Impact Wrestling and vacated the title. Now, her addition in the game doesn't mean that she is for sure signed, but we have seen over the years that like wrestlers appearing in the WWE video games has led to them either coming back, or, you know, in the case of like, you know, in the case of Warrior and Angle coming back, in the case of Sting, actually signing with WWE.
Yeah, it's very surprising. But first of all, like going back to the photographer, I hope that he gets his, you know, royalties from that, because, you know, we're all starving artists, whether you're a creator and like you're a painter, whether you're a podcast, whatever it is that you're doing, we tend to, you know, struggle a little bit more. So hopefully that all gets resolved for him. But in terms of Tessa Blanchard, I mean, I feel that she would benefit so much, not just her, but the entire company, from having Tessa Blanchard on the roster if she were to go to NXT. I mean, it's Tessa Blanchard. She's arguably the best female wrestler out there. I mean, she's top notch. She is one of the best wrestlers, period. So sort of having her be a part of the NXT roster, I think would be amazing. However, I do think that AEW would need Tessa Blanchard a whole lot more. So even though nothing has been confirmed, I really do think that wherever Tessa Blanchard ends up, it's really going to depend on her attitude and how she's feeling at, you know, that current state and time.
I was going to say, yeah, like with Blanchard does come the baggage of signing a Tessa Blanchard, because she has got a lot of, like, you know, backstage heat with some people. There were a lot of things that were written and said about her when she won the Impact title, and those haven't really gone away. Like, they are sort of like, they will probably be with her for a long time. But recently we did our Patreon podcast, which actually went live today, myself and Mr. Davis reviewing All In from 2018. And in that four-way, where it's Blanchard, Chelsea Green, Madison Rayne, and Britt Baker, like, Blanchard is the star of that foursome. Like, she just feels like on a complete different level to everyone else. And it's funny, like, the rumors this year were that she was going to be signed by WWE, but straight onto the main roster and like put into this big program with Charlotte. And they were talking about, you know, WrestleMania programs for her, and like, you know, pushing her as like the next big thing in their women's division. So I can see WWE making a big play for Tessa Blanchard, and I think it's interesting then that she has kind of featured in a way in this new game.
And yeah, you know, we've all heard the stories about Tessa Blanchard, but who's to say, you know, people change, people grow. Maybe she has a new perspective on things. We don't know. And obviously all of the social media stuff that happened to her, not that happened to her because obviously they were justified based on the stories that we heard, but it is sort of that thing where it's like, well, how do you shake something like that off? It's not something you can get rid of, but you know, the thing that you mentioned about Tessa Blanchard standing out to you from all the women, I honestly feel like it doesn't, you look at her wrestle and she doesn't wrestle like every other female out there. She has a very different dynamic when it comes to how she goes into the ring. Just everything she does comes with a different type of intensity and a different type of, I don't even know, like this presence that she brings into each move that she does. And if she were to go to WWE, I definitely see her. I mean, yeah, she would do amazing things in NXT, but I can definitely see them, you know, saying like, hey, like she's a main roster person. Let's put her her up there because she's one of those women that would have phenomenal matches with Charlotte Flair, Asuka. I mean, you name it, pretty much every female on that roster. And they have so many women right now, and they can do so many different matchups. So Tessa Blanchard is a win-win.
Yeah, and actually to echo what you said earlier in regards to her going to AEW, like, you know, I think AEW would love to have someone like Blanchard on there because they do need some, yeah, unfortunately they do need some star presence in their women's division. And it's, you know, the report came out yesterday from Sean Rossap over on Fightful Select that the match between Eva Lise and Thunder Rosa on this week's Dynamite actually was like, it was legit fighting at one point, because Thunder Rosa was like laying in her punches because she wants to make the, you know, protect the NWA and make the NWA titles feel important. But Eva Lee started to no sell it because she thought that she was starting to stiff her and stuff. And apparently there was like a backstage altercation between them. So like, I think like the women's division almost like if I mean, I don't know what the point I'm trying to make here is, but like, Eva Lise is there at the moment, and she is someone who comes with her own baggage. And like, she is always like, everyone has always said, like, Eva Lise is an incredible talent, but she is her own worst enemy. Like, do you then want to add Tessa Blanchard into that mix? I hope that, you know, that Tessa has come the other side of this as a better person. But
here's the thing, though, and not to like make this go extra long, but here's the thing, though. When someone is that good, like Tessa Blanchard, don't you sort of, I mean, depending on the person, work up some sort of like, you know, ego where if someone tells you do this and you're like, no, I'm too good for that. If anything, that's kind of I kind of see that as a pro. I mean, not always, but that the match with Eva Lise and Thunder Rosa, that was very interesting because that match, I was most drawn to Eva Lise. And when Thunder Rosa went for the tombstone, I noticed that it took her a really long time to sort of set it up to the point where it was very noticeable. And, you know, it kind of took me away from the match for a second. So I definitely am very like, you know, not surprised, but it is very interesting to hear that all of this went down in the match. So who knows what that trigger point was.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, everyone was sharing that GIF yesterday of the moment when she was like locking the arms when she was sat down, and someone brilliantly described it as like trying to get your 5-year-old to put on their clothes when they're not, when they're acting up, and you're trying to get them to go to school.
That's hilarious. That's well said.